All right, so we are going to skip ahead to example 3. We'll go back to example 2. On example 3, notice that I have a negative in front of the 1/2. So this means my parabola is going to turn upside down. It's going to open downward. It has a 1/2, so that means this is going to become wider. And then the -6 tells me that my y-intercept is going to be down here at -6. So I'm going to put that one on first. And if I wanted, on my table, I could go ahead and put if x is 0, y is 6, because it's the y-intercept. I also, yes, thank you. So I also know that this thing opens downward, so my vertex is going to be up here somewhere or up here somewhere in order for it to open downward. So the first thing I'm going to do is find my vertex. I can find the x value of my vertex by doing the opposite of b over 2a. This time my b value, there isn't a number there, so there's a 1. So my b value is -1, and my a value is -1/2. So I'm going to have the opposite of -1 over 2 times -1/2. Well, the opposite of -1 is +1, and 2 times 1/2, that cancels and goes to -1. So the x value of my vertex is at -1. I have to find the y value. So I'm going to go put -1 in for x to find the y value. So I'll have y equals -1/2 times -1 squared minus -1 minus 6. So again, I'm putting this x value in for x right here to see what y would be. -1 squared is 1. And the opposite of -1 is +1. And you're welcome to use your calculator on this if you want to. -1/2 times 1 is -1/2. -1/2 plus 1 minus 6. -1/2 plus 1 is +1/2. +1/2 minus 6 is -5.5. So this is the vertex. I want to have at least one point on this side of the vertex and at least one point on this side of the vertex. So I'm going to do -2 because this is my vertex point. That's where my line of symmetry will be. So now I'm going to go put -2 in for x. And we should already have an idea of what our answer should be if it's symmetric with this one. We know we should get -6. So -1/2 times -2 squared minus -2 plus, minus 6. -2 squared is 4 times -1/2, that's -2. Opposite of -2 is +2, minus 6. These two cancel each other out, so I just get -6. Good, that's what it should have been. So at -2, I'm at -6. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's right, -2, -6. And at -1, I'm at -5.5. So you can see how this is wide. Instead of going over 1, down 1, I'm over 1, down 1/2. So it makes it wider than if it was over 1, down 1. The axis of symmetry is at x equals -1. And this vertex point, if I want to label it, is at -1, -5.5.